An episode about honesty, huh? This sounds right up my alley. And in my honest opinion, after watching this episode twice, this episode sucks. It sucks bad. And here is why. So basically the episode begins with Rarity doing basically a fashion show for startup fashionistas. And I think that's cool. I think that's cool that Rarity wants to do something like that to help new and budding designers and otherwise get a kickstart by, showing off some of their work at her boutique with a contest kind of thing and otherwise. So basically she talks about the judges, which is Photo Finish, Hoity Toity, herself, and the last one being Applejack. The reason why she brought in Applejack was because she felt that Applejack's practicality would be able to balance out, artists' creative perspective and otherwise. And in many ways that is true. Let's be fair on something. Practicality is pretty important when it comes to judging anything creatively, especially when it comes to, art or otherwise. But the problem that I have with this episode, very simply put, is that Applejack feels like she gets, the last input and the main input in all of these decisions and otherwise. I'm not even kidding. It's like it doesn't even matter what Rarity, Hoity Toity, or Photo Finish say. Applejack just throws her own agenda in there and changes things based on what she feels is right. Now, I get that's supposed to be the whole point of the episode, Applejack having a destructive opinion and otherwise, but at the very beginning of the episode, and even in earlier episodes, she said that fashion is not her thing. And then right at the end of all this, changing some of the ponies' designs for jackets, taking the feathers off of a hat and otherwise, she literally then just screams out, "Fashion is silly!" How do you go from saying, "not my thing," to "screw this thing"? That is a major contrast to each other. That's that's not the same as going from one side to another. That's like being dragged out of the kiddie pool and thrown into the ocean. That's not an opinion you could just immediately get to from just being a part of it for 2 minutes. And the way the episode tries to approach this is by having Applejack go through another destructive opinion of someone who doesn't like apples. And to be honest, in order for you to understand Applejack's rudeness, you basically make her go up against another character who is equally as rude as she is. It would have been better if they went with a character that had a calmer perspective. I don't like apples, mainly because I just don't like their taste and such, but I like strawberries, and it's that kind of stuff. They could have gone with a more calmer perspective, and you still could have got Applejack to learn her lesson, because she still could have had the angry perspective, but she still would have understood, oh. Episode pretty much ends with the fashion show happening after Applejack learns her lesson. All of them win because Applejack couldn't make the final decision, and the message at the end of the episode is a good one. It is a good one. But the problem is that the way the episode approaches that message unbelievably contrasts with it. So all in all, what do I think about this episode? After watching it twice, this episode fails badly. I honestly hate this episode, and it's right now my least favorite of the season so far. I'm a guy who likes to be honest, and I'm a guy who will share my opinion, but I always tell people there is an importance when it comes to sharing a constructive opinion and sharing a destructive opinion. And when you show off a destructive opinion with a character who's been known as being constructive for the most part, they contrast with each other. Honestly, like I said, I don't like the way they did Applejack's character in this episode because there have been 0 signs of her being this way. 0. And here it is in this episode, her having a destructive opinion? No. And not to mention there were a lot of writing things in this episode that I was just like, when did we go back to season 2? So, yeah, this episode fails. And that's my speed impressions on Honest Apple.